Before we begin, thank you very much to Samantha S. for rejoining the Patreon campaign. Welcome back. Missed you. Glad you're here. Thank you very much for pitching in. Thank you for the contribution to help keep the channel going and the daily content coming. Always appreciated. Can't do it without all of you. And Samantha pitched in at the highest tier I offer, which means they are owed a video request. So DM it to me over on Patreon. That's the easiest way to do it. And yeah, that is a benefit that goes to anyone who signs up at that level. So, yeah, thank you very much for doing so. I did notice that the last couple of videos, I kind of just took my grievances out on things. We de-stressed on a whole bunch about modern Transformer marketing, how Hasbro tends to produce a inferior version first and a superior version later to make you get both of them. We've also gone over my thoughts on the current Kamen Rider that's about to come up that I don't like. So I did realize it's two fairly negative videos in a row. Let's actually just do something fun today. Let's actually just do something weird. Recently in a video, I mentioned, I mentioned like we were talking about the 86 Optimus Prime and the accessories it comes with and how much it can come with. So I thought, let's actually examine that and deep dive into that a little bit more. So today we're going to be looking at every accessory that you could potentially cram into a Generation 1 Optimus Prime toy. Now, for the sake of making sure this doesn't end up being a 2-hour video, we're going to leave it to just accessories that apply to the Generation 1 Optimus Prime design. I'm not even including Power Master in that. It has to be very strictly G1 Optimus Prime in design, right? There might be a couple exceptions. You'll see why, though. Point being, I'm going to try to keep this as concise as I can, but needless to say, there's a lot. And we start with the must-have, which is his traditional Ion Blaster. Now, the one you see here is from his Masterpiece releases, the MPO-1, which is cartoon accurate. It's what we think of when we think of Prime's Ion Blaster. The trick is, it's not the only one, is there? If we're going to be doing literally any accessory G1 Optimus Prime could come with based on any of his fictitious appearances, cartoon, comic book, or even other toys, then we have to consider a lot of variations that could also be packed in, either as alternatives or as, additional versions. So, gray and black here, because that's what the Masterpiece toy came with. Both of those are actually viable options. We could put both in the same box with these Optimus Prime accessories. That said, neither of them is accurate to the design and shape of the original toy blaster. And therein lies another problem. This is not the only version. There are two different variations of this weapon, thick barrel and skinny barreled. There are also variations in the center handle that Optimus Prime holds it. So you have to account for all of those. By the way, if I'm saying if we are going to include every accessory a single Optimus Prime can have in a box, I am including every variation getting into the box at the same time. Just for insanity. This is going to be like a $400 box, and the Prime is only going to be a Voyager-sized toy. You understand that, okay? That's what I'm aiming for here. Other notable gun accessories we could include with Optimus Prime is, of course, G1 Megatron. Now, he only used Megatron a couple of times because it was very rare when they actually worked together. That said, it is kind of iconic when he did. It's weird to think that there are Decepticons like Skywarp that wielded Megatron in gun mode less than Optimus Prime wielded Megatron in gun mode. And it's a popular go-to accessory for reissues and Masterpiece toys, so if we're doing every accessory, absolutely has to be included. And then we start getting into the deeper cuts and pulls. Who remembers this weapon? So the gun in Prime's left hand, this is literally the only scene he ever uses it in. It's from The Revenge of Bruticus, and I have no idea where it came from or what it is. That said, it does set a precedent for dual-wielding Optimus Primes, like the Classics design. So it actually does have a little bit of note to it, even though this is a completely random weapon that he never used before, never used since, and I think immediately got blasted out of his hands, so he didn't even, I'm not even sure he got a shot off with it. But still, I have seen more obscure things be included as accessories in these toys, especially in these all-in-one packages. If we're going to get really ridiculous, how many variations of the blaster exist? How many different guns does Optimus Prime come with? I mentioned the Classics one. There's a double-barrel silver weapon, and then there's the big rifle made out of his wind main. We could throw in both of those too. You know, why not throw in his big orange cannon from the Action Master design? Like, that's that's viable. That's a G1 style Optimus Prime. That's his gun, and hey, big bright orange is going to stand out different. And I'm sure Hasbro would love to have something to work on to the same mold as the Energon axe. It's, hey, thank the Primus. He has more than one orange part now. And I could go on ad nauseum, here's the Robot Master in the upper right. You see the translucent blue rocket launcher they came with. There's so many variations of the standard weapon Optimus Prime comes with. You're looking at literally dozens of guns that you could throw in. But we can't just focus on the firepower, because Optimus Prime is used melee as well. Of course, the Energon axe is the other extremely popular accessory. Almost every Optimus Prime, at least every major Optimus Prime release, includes the axe accessory. It's become so iconic that it's the basis for Optimus Prime's main weapons in the live-action movies. It's also included in the '86 Optimus Prime toy, even though he never used it in the movie. But it's just the accessory every expensive Optimus Prime toy has to have, even though he only used it for one scene. And it's a fight scene he lost. Optimus Prime lost this fight, and yet he still gets that axe. That's hilarious to me. Needless to say, the axe has been imagined and reimagined so many times over. It's been a handheld axe with an Energon blade. It's just been a normal metal axe. It's been a sword. We can just keep going on variations of his axe alone. And then we get into things like his actual swords. So this was one of the Legends class Optimus Prime toys released back in the day around Generations. They repainted it into Menasor, who they had to call, Motormaster, who they had to call Motor Breath for the release. And they added in the Menasor sword, just to kind of give him that extra accessory to go, oh yeah, trust us, even though it looks like Nemesis Prime with gray boots on. It is absolutely Motormaster. There's his sword and everything. But when later re-releases of that toy brought him back to being Optimus Prime, they didn't mold the weapon out. So he just has this inexplicable red version of Menasor's sword. And again, not the only sword he's had as a physical weapon accessory, so more options there. The sword that I want to see that I've absolutely never seen anyone do? The crystal sword from Fire in the Sky. I actually really like the sword fight scene with the two crystal swords that Optimus and Megatron gets into. I think it's one of their cooler fights. It's short, but it's different. And I've never seen that as an accessory. When it comes to the melee weapons, we could keep going on and on and on. There's, like I said, countless variations of the axe. It evolves into a sword. That's got a ton of variations too. He's got shields that he's used over the years. Like, we can't go through every single iteration. But that's just a scratching of the surface of all the different weapons that Optimus Prime could come with. And then we need to get into the trinkets and accessories that are iconic but are not weaponized, like the Matrix of Leadership. This one is kind of interesting because if you're going to do an Optimus of that size, it might not be able to open. Like, the only Matrix I can remember that came in with an Optimus Prime that was actually able to open was the original MPO-1, because it was large enough to do that. If we're looking at something like 86 Prime scale, that's probably less likely. So you're looking at potentially an accessory for the closed Matrix and an accessory for the opened Matrix as well. The open Matrix, which would actually be large enough to hold the way he's supposed to hold it, not this tiny little bauble that fits in his palm. And as long as we're talking about the Matrix here, I do count Marvel Comics Creation Matrix as a different accessory, not only because it's a different shape and a different color, but because it's a different purpose behind it. This would be our second Matrix in the box set. And that's not even the only one we can do. We can go to Beast Wars, where the Matrix leadership was housing Optimus Prime's spark because of a miscommunication or an error by the production staff that mistook the crystal in the middle for the G1 equivalent of a spark. So that's another option. Yeah, a bunch of different Matrix leaderships variations that get thrown in here as well. And that leads us to all the other accessories Optimus Prime traditionally came with for his original toy. So now you're talking about rockets for the trailer's, combat deck form. You've got the nozzle and the hose that that was a Diaclone accessory. Always kind of useless with G1 Optimus Prime, but hey, maybe you could find something to do with it with all these other parts we're including. Also, the fuel pump that connects to Roller and connects to the hose as well. By the way, there's 2 variations of that we have to account for as well. That also includes the fists. Now, of course, on a modern Optimus Prime, you're not going to have removable fists, but what you could have are optional hands. That's a big thing in action figures these days. Hasbro does it with a lot of their lines. You're starting to see little bits here and there of them doing that in other lines, like it's very rare for Transformers, but that's another option. Swappable hands is something you could do, because now apparently it's iconic for Optimus Prime to have a pointing hand. So you absolutely need to get something in there if we're going to do like an all Optimus Prime release, every accessory possible. Then you have to have the pointing hand. It's very important now. But we're talking in the other things that come with the Optimus Prime's original toy. That's going to bring us to the combat deck, that being the trailer, which, yeah, it's a huge chunk of plastic, but it is technically an accessory. The hilarious thing is, if we're doing cartoon accurate and toy accurate accessories all in the same box, then we're going to have to include 2 trailers that both have the different stickers. I would imagine there'd be some way of like transforming the inners, like making these panels that could flip around and like, okay, here's the flat gray, here's the blue and silver. So I'm not going to go so extreme as to say this thing needs to include 2 trailers, right? No. What it needs to include is Roller. You have to have Roller. Like, it's not a proper trailer without Roller. Earthrise. Looking at you. So with this one, you have your blue and your silver. A full box set of every part Optimus Prime ever had would have to include both. This is also bringing us something interesting about the combat trailer, in the fact that in the cartoon, it looks nothing like the toy. It's just a very rough interpretation of it. So we could do something with this too. Like, we could actually have the combat trailer like come apart, take the cockpit canopy part off, and just leave it as this particular weapon. That's a potential. But then again, there's this thing too. If we're going back to Fire in the Sky, by the way, it looks like Roller and the combat deck merged into one attack unit, but it's, again, different colors and different shapes to things. So is this a completely separate beast? Have we discovered a completely new species of Roller? Don't know. But if we're going to be all-encompassing, that has to be added to the list. Now, talked about missiles, we talked about all these weapons. Now, if we're going to talk about all that, then we got to talk about blast accessories, right? We got to talk about blast effects, because Transformers can't have major releases anymore without blast effects, which is another chance for me to remind everyone watching at home, don't leave your blast effects and soft plastic pieces connected to your Transformers over long periods of time, because there is something in those plastics Hasbro uses that actually eats the plastic on the toy itself. So don't do that. Put them away. Seal them up. Don't let them touch anything. Also, don't let Sandstorm or Beachcomber's rubber wheels touch anything else for too long. Make sure if they're stored in a bin, they're in a bag. Okay, thanks. Bye. But when we're talking blast effects, I like the 86 blast effect because it's much more narrow, it's much more screen accurate. It's not the big explosion of energy that a lot of the blast effects are. But we have room for Optimus Prime to have those as well. Optimus Prime is blown up a lot. He's blown up a lot. We've got plenty of opportunity to add those into the box. That brings us to the battle damage of the 86 movie. Now, again, blast effects are one thing, but we've also seen in recent years where it is entirely possible for Hasbro and Takara to have removable components from Optimus Prime that can then be swapped on for battle damaged ones to represent the damage he had in the movie. I believe MP44 included a piece that did that, along with a battle damaged head. So you can replicate that battle damage absolutely. Which also brings me to wonder, can we include this piece of shrapnel too? Like something that's like has like a hidden 5mm function, so it fits in his hand just like it is there, but also has like the 3mm so it can plug into his abdomen. If we're going to go all out, we might as well go all out, right? Let's include all the things that killed Optimus Prime. If Megatron can have the gun that killed Optimus Prime in his kit all the time, then I think we can include little things like this too. We could go more extreme with the battle damage if you want. There's a much worse version we could go to if we really wanted to. But I mentioned it before, and that does bring up another potential accessory count, and that is optional heads. So what about heads? So cartoon accurate, obvious, battle damage, obvious, but we could also do toy accurate, because the decal on that would have to be completely different, and it is differently shaped. And then we have the Marvel comic style head that we could throw in as well, like you see here on screen. So alternate heads, another big thing for Transformers. They're starting to do that. They're actually starting to do that a little bit more, and it's cool to see. Let's get into some of the other ones that Prime gets often, but we don't really talk about much. Things like the jetpack, which is actually Sideswipe's jetpack, and people kind of forget that because Sideswipe never comes with that jetpack. Optimus Prime comes with that jetpack, and then good luck finding a Sideswipe it fits on. But you know what? Point is, it's a climactic scene from the original episodes of Transformers. No surprise that, every now and then an Optimus Prime with a jetpack comes out. Easy one to do. There's another jetpack, though. In Dinobot Island Part 2, Optimus Prime is flying with a completely different style jetpack. So we have two jetpacks I have to go in. Something else that he gets a lot, platforms. Display bases, flight stands, that kind of thing. They've been everything from gray platforms with small Autobot symbols to just really big Autobot symbols. This is something that's actually been pretty common. Big Optimus Primes have gotten them. Small ones, like the hybrid style, have gotten them. And if you're going to include the jetpack, then a display base that has the flight stand is actually kind of a good thing to have as well. If we're going to get into the more eclectic accessories, then we're talking about things like Spike, who came with the Masterpiece 44 release as well. That would require the chest of Prime to also have space enough for him to sit. But even if he didn't, he could still pilot Roller, and he could still have little spots inside the trailer, the computer sections, where he could sit and actually, integrate with Optimus Prime's toy. So we keep those potentials in mind to where, yeah, we could put in Spike. Technically, that also means we could put in Sparkplug, Carly, potentially Chip Chase. That's a snowball. That's a snowball. Once you roll that snowball down the hill, every human that gets associated or connected to Optimus Prime in any way ends up getting released as an accessory in this imaginary box set we're doing. Eventually, we're going to hit Tommy, and you don't want to hit Tommy. We've gone too far. Other weird accessories that we very rarely get, I hate to say it, Super 7 actually tackled a few that we really didn't have before. That includes the basketball. I really like that there are scenes of Optimus Prime playing basketball because it shows a different side of himself, trying to learn about human culture, you know, rather than just being a general all the time. It's kind of an important distinction. It's kind of nice to have. The surfboard. We had a surfboard. Super 7 remembered that. They threw that in with their package. No, the surfboard isn't going to transform into a sword. That's for a different Optimus Prime we don't talk about. I know it's in Generation 1 continuity. Remember, for this list, we're focusing on G1 style Optimus Prime. OG style Optimus Primes. None of the redesigns, because, oh my god, then we're talking thousands of accessories. You know, I'm just trying to limit to, just like a cozy 100. Super 7 also threw in the Energon chains from the SOS Dinobot episode. There's a lot of Dinobot episodes that include Prime accessories now that I think about it. That's another one you could do. It's another easy one. They won't turn Prime blue, but they will at least mimic the scene where he's captured. You want to go really obscure? Optimus Prime's worn clothes a few times. Can we throw in wearable clothes for Optimus Prime? Can he wear the cape? This is from the G2 manga in Japan, how they continued the storyline over there without a cartoon. And yeah, like during the Autobot Decepticon alliance that preceded the story there, Optimus and Megatron wore matching capes. Isn't that cute? They're like a couple. So that is a viable thing. Like, it's not just Starscream. Optimus Prime, for a brief time, actually had a cape. And weirdly enough, the Legends manga in Japan actually brought the cape back. You can see it again. So it's more relevant now. It's not just one frame. We can also have him dressing as Santa. That's a thing Marvel did. So if you want to play dress up with your Optimus Prime, we actually have options for that. Also, if you want other people to dress up as Optimus Prime, we could do that too. I think one of the most insane accessories ever done for an Optimus Prime is the parts to replicate Starscream disguised as Optimus Prime. You know, from the one time that happened. So, I don't think there's anything weirder than that we could throw in, and this video is already over 20 minutes. I'm going to cut it off there. Needless to say, this is not a complete list. This is not a complete list. Now, even if we include every variation of thing that I have talked about, all the variations on guns, axes, all the blasters that I didn't talk about, you know, like in Generation 2 comic, he had a completely different two-handled blaster that he used. If we throw in literally everything, we're talking like 100 accessories in a $500 box, and the Optimus Prime inside is only Voyager sized. It's a lot, which of course, over 40 years of fiction, of course it would be a lot. And keep in mind, we didn't do Power Master, we didn't do Alternator, we didn't do anything from expanded Optimus Primes, like movie, animated, Prime. We just stuck to accessories that came with one style of Optimus Prime design. And whew. So, feel free to leave your favorite one in the comments below, or tell me one that I missed, because like I said, not a full list. There's plenty that could be added to this. And hey, we're going for that hypothetical box set that includes all of it, which is going to mean immediate bankruptcy for some collectors. But that's what we got. That's what I have for the day. Thank you everyone for watching. Hope you had fun through this little random list of mine. And as always, I will see you next time.